Hey everybody, welcome back to the Difference Maker podcast with your hosts, Matt and Chris Calderoni. This week's going to be a good episode, good target, good, we'll call it discussion to have, because this is something that a lot of people have been talking about, asking about, discussing before. And the problem is that, like we're going to talk about here today, there's a lot of this, just deal, cope with, accept type of crap going on. And we don't want to accept things. We want to get rid of it, right? So this week's topic is all about pre-performance nerves. It's all about how to not just cope with them, but instead get rid of them, which is probably one of the most important things that we can do. So quick little bit of a plug to start. If you like our content, please like, subscribe, share, follow. We're on all major social media platforms. We've just been working on some YouTube footage as well that we've been doing to actually create this into a session, a training that you can actually watch through and work through to get rid of these pre-performance nerves. So it's going to be on YouTube as well. And then, of course, with that, we've got our Molliteum Insider. So make sure to subscribe to that as well and go from there. So pre-performance nerves, for anybody tuning in, should never be seen as something that you should just deal with. You should never just cope with it. If you're being told to cope with your pre-performance nerves, you need to question who you are seeing to help you coach or get coached through this. Here's why. Everything when it comes down to nerves or anxiousness in a way can be dealt with. It's how you deal with it. It's the experience of the individual that is dealing with it with you that is going to be able to help you through it or not. Because here's the thing, like I was sharing in our YouTube video, but this all really started to come to me when we were dealing with one of our Olympians that we had a couple years ago. And this individual came to us, asked us, I've been working with so-and-so before, wasn't helping as much. I'm having issues dealing with my pre-performance nerves. And I said, okay, so what have you done up to this point? And she goes, I've been coping with them. I've been taught how to cope with them. I've been taught the breathing and the mindfulness and the practice in this. And it's like, okay, great. That's all good. But I said, what have you been taught to get rid of it? And that's where it was kind of one of those deer in the headlight moments where it's like, well, I guess nothing really. And it's like, okay, so that's step one that we got to look at. Step two is for anybody tuning in that finds themselves in the same situation, we're going to deal with that right now today because we don't want you to cope with your pre-performance nerves.
Yeah, you don't want it to be a reoccurring theme, right? So that's one of the bigger things. It's nailing it down, getting it done right away, as opposed to just circling, coming back to it every single game. Otherwise, what the hell is the point of that?
Yeah, and the thing is, too, I wanted to say is like once you learn this formula, you can actually use it yourself for multiple different things. And this isn't just for athletes, this episode. This is for high-performing business professionals. Like we use this even with people who are going in for pitches, going in for speeches, going in for presentations. Anything and anyone, I'll say, that deals with pre-performance nerves, this episode's for you. So let's dive into it. So again, first, number one, we're not going to cope with it. Let's go to number two. So what do we do instead of cope with it? We've got to get you into a pre-performance mindset or a state of what we call peak performance. So defining that, what a state of peak performance is, to kick things off, it's when you get into a mindset of excitement and certainty where you're walking into a performance and you're ready to rock, right? Like you're ready to go. You can't wait to tackle it. You can't wait to handle it. More importantly, you're excited to do it. And I feel like this is something we've talked about before where people aren't excited to actually perform, or they're feeling nervous behind things and so on, and they're not in this state of peak performance. They're not in this mindset, and as a result, they don't perform up to their standards.
And I was just thinking, like, it's not reliant on the individuals that you're coming up against, right? Like, it's you going into a performance regardless of who you're playing. Because I remember I was a striker as a soccer player when I was younger, and one of the big things we used to do our pre-games, look at the team that we're playing against, and it was like a lower bottom team. It was like, oh shit, here we go. Time to pump them, right? But I think what we're trying to get at here is it doesn't matter who you're playing against. It doesn't matter what performance that you're going into. It's more of you're going into it, you're feeling good. And it doesn't matter what the opponent is or who you're playing. It's I'm going to go in and I'm going to tear them up anyways.
Absolutely. And it's being in that mindset, right? Because just a quick little stat here, and it's funny because this is probably one of the most common issues that we see arise with athletes, right? So U of T, University of Toronto, big shout out, did a study on the Canadian national team in 2020 when they were going to Tokyo. They found that 31.7% of them reported symptoms of depression or anxiousness, where 18.8% of that was moderate and 12.9% of that was reported to be severe. And then a 5.9% of that reported to have general anxiety. So what's interesting about this is widespread. And if we use, again, this type of formula of getting into a state of peak performance where you're walking into a performance ready to go, you're going to be fine. So let's talk about that. What does this formula look like? So we describe this in our show in the YouTube training for it, which, again, you can check it out. We'll link it here too. But the whole thing behind this, guys, is that getting into a state of peak performance has two things that you need. Number one, you need to have a core hunger. And a core hunger is excitement that comes from having a purpose that means something to you, a vision that means something to you, and a mission that means something to you, plus certainty, which certainty consists of mental repetitions or visualization. We talk about that a lot. Physical practice that's specific and has a mental environment, and then film study work and a laser focus. So here's the thing. If you are experiencing pre-performance nerves, that means that you've been able to get to the performance environment itself, right? Like you're at the starting line at this point. So chances are the hunger is there. If you're nervous going into a performance, we've got to spend our time, and what we're going to do for the majority of this episode is spend our time on certainty, right? And building that certainty out, because I think this is where a lot of people drop the ball. This is where self-assessment comes into play a lot, which we'll talk about. And this is where I think a lot of people miss the fact of what they need to do to get themselves feeling certain. And it's not your fault, because it usually isn't discussed with you or taught to you, right? It's something that you kind of have to learn and something you have to seek out yourself, unfortunately, in the world of high performance, right? So let's start with this. Let's dive into the first aspect of what goes into this state of certainty. We're going to teach you everything with certainty in this. We're even going to have a blog post on it as well after, so you can read this as well if you want. You can see how it goes, and we'll have some cool things for you there.
And guys, so just if you want to be updated on the blog and our posts and everything, subscribe to the newsletter. It's in the link below, or the link is below, sorry. And also on Twitter, we're going to be always putting out new blogs, portions of it. Check it out.
Yeah, because you know what? Even this is a good time to talk about it quickly. What we're doing with the Molliteum Insider, for anybody that's been a part of it, and it's been, I know, a little bit dormant, we actually had a massive brain think on this for the last month or so, where we put together some really cool content. We're actually giving you 52 weeks worth. Doesn't matter if you start in week 25 or week 1. You will always have 52 weeks worth. So one thing a week on training your resilience. We are literally walking you through this email newsletter as if it is us training you in a written form. So I'm telling you, like Chris said, there's a lot of good content there. You can see it on our Twitter. We have constant plugs to sign up for it. But this isn't just some kind of, hey, let's update you with Molliteum stuff. This is a training-based newsletter. It's everything that you need in order to build your resilience. So let's get into this now. So mental reps. This is the first aspect of building your certainty. Like always, use your journal. Write this stuff down. Take your notes. Make sure you use it. So here's what mental reps consist of. The first thing you've got to do before we even get into this all is you've got to understand the exact outcome that you're after and what's holding you back from it. So here's how I would say to do this. It's a very simple question that you want to ask yourself. You literally want to say, okay, how exactly do I want to perform in my upcoming performance? And you're going to answer that question, right? So it might be, let's pretend I'm going to use the sake of soccer and being a striker, a forward, because I'm talking to a lot right now, so it's just on my mind. But let's pretend you're a forward. You're a striker in soccer. The desired outcome is that you want to walk into performance and you want to make sure that you are able easily to perform and score offensively. Great. That's the desired outcome. The second question you want to ask yourself is, what is holding me back from that? Because when it comes to pre-performance nerves, guys, it's not that. So let's look at a side segment on a couple scenarios for a second. You might be sitting there saying, well, Matt, my pre-performance nerves come from worrying about what a coach is thinking. Great. Let me challenge you on that. Does a certain person worry about, somebody who's sure of themselves, I should say, do they worry about what the coach is saying? No. If you're sure of yourself, you just go. Okay, so that's one myth busted. Myth number 2. Well, Matt, I'm walking into performances unsure of my skills. Great. Does a person who's sure of themselves worry about their skills going into performance? Nope. Okay, great. Myth busted. Next one, most common one. Matt, I know the skills I have. I'm not worried about the coaches and what they have to say. I'm actually worried a little bit about execution. Do I know what I'm doing? Am I on the right path? So on. Great. Does a certain or sure person worry about that? No. So literally, all your myths are going to be busted here and can always come back to one or two things, right? So you got to answer that right now. What is really holding me back from this? Well, are you unsure of something? Are you worried about a coach? Are you not sure of how to do, or perform a specific skill? This is great when you figure this out, guys. I'm telling you, because once you figure this out, we can then go on to the next question, which is, what 1 to 2 skills then must I work on in order to feel sure of myself? That is literally the sequence we use, guys, with every single high-performing athlete, every single executive, high-performing individual, anybody who focuses around this aspect of high performance. If you just answer those questions, what do I want to accomplish? What's holding me back to it? What 1 to 2 skills must I build certainty in? Must I be sure of? Must I feel better with? However you want to phrase it. You will get to the root of your issues right there, right?
And it's simple.
It's literally that simple. I don't know why people overcomplicate it in this space. I don't know why people try to make this something bigger than it actually is. I don't know why we're handing out coping skills when really there are purging skills, which is what we want here. This is something that is simple, like Chris just said. What do I want? What do I feel is holding me back? What 1 to 2 skills then must I work on in order to get there?
And never deal with it again.
Right. So let's talk about how to do this visualization then. So here's how we like to look at it, guys. When you have those 1 to 2 skills now that you need to work on, you need to think of this, and I'm pretty sure I've said this in past episodes, and I'm going to keep beating this into everybody's head who tunes in. Use your skill building like you're building a house. If you are starting with the outcome, that is like building a house from the roof down. That is the worst thing that you could possibly do, right? Like, imagine if I said you just need to visualize the outcome. Great, but you're unsure of shooting a ball if you're trying to score, and you're unsure of the position you need to get into, but you're just visualizing the end result. Why would you do that? Right? You need to work through this stuff. So here's how we visualize. You're going to do 3 sets of 10 reps. When it comes down to this, you want to visualize 1 set of 10 reps where it is perfect practice with those skills. So if I'm a striker and I need to score and I find the 2 skills holding me back that I'm unsure of is my positioning and my ability to finish or score, right? I'm going to visualize 5 repetitions of getting into the perfect position and 5 repetitions of seeing myself just shoot to score. Nobody's around me. No pressure is on me. It is the basic foundation. The second thing I'm going to go into then is understanding how to deal with challenge. When I understand how to deal with challenge and the challenges I am facing, I'm now adding that bricklayer to the house, right? Where it's like, okay, I know the basic skills I have, and now seeing myself get through the challenges that I'm experiencing with those skills. So challenges could be performing when there's a defender on your back and you got to shoot to score. It could be that you need to perform even with a coach yelling at you. This is a big one that I feel like a lot of people don't think is an important one, right? But like, if you have a coach who is a screamer and you have a tough time dealing with that, visualize through it.
And I would even say, like, especially for technique specific skills, this works absolute wonders, because like everyone knows, any forward, any individual that's taking a shot at anything, you all know the difficulty in getting a shot off under pressure and maintaining the technique, whether it be, soccer, hockey, whatever, just maintaining that technique under pressure does absolute wonders. Not saying it doesn't do anything for anything else, but if you're really struggling to get through a certain part of a technique for a skill, does absolute wonders.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. And then the last part, once you visualize this awesomeness behind your skills and your technique and the challenge, then you can visualize the perfect end result, which is seeing yourself in your upcoming game, scoring a goal. Again, you do 1 set of 10 for each of these. If you do this at least 3 times a week, and you sit down and you sit in the corner of a room where you have quiet time and space, and you shut the door and you say, don't come in here for 15 minutes, leave me alone, because it'll take you about a couple minutes to find yourself. I'm telling you, this is a game changer. We have all of our pro athletes doing this 3 times a week minimum, and we adjust it to the upcoming performance, right? So that's step 1. This will build your certainty. Let's go into the second part of this, which is building on physical practice. So physical practice is something Chris talks about a lot too, and I'll let him cover it in a second, but you need to create a mental environment that matches game day, right? A lot of players go into practices where they just go through the motions. They don't practice with intensity behind them, and then they wonder why they become these practice players.
100%. Like, I even remember when you were training to go to Italy. We went on top of a hill with a wall.
That's
because
right.
There weren't any nets. And it was like, even for myself, obviously we were training you, but even for myself, it was like, okay, we have the pegs in the ground. We're on top of a hill. How do you change the environment to fit that intensity that you needed in order to get to where you needed to go.
Yes.
And that was one of the most difficult things. To be honest, right at the beginning, it was a difficult thing.
Yep.
But with that practice, with that repetition, and with that consistent, I would say the consistent ability and imagination to continue to raise that environment, it was huge.
Yeah.
Like we didn't have any lines on the field. We didn't have anything. It was 2 pegs in the ground and in a mud patch sometimes. And it was like, okay, if I'm still coming down the wing, I'm looking to shoot cross goal. It's soccer, just so you guys know, but looking to shoot a cross goal, hit the outside of the boot to make sure that I get the right technique and everything down. And it was like that consistent intensity. And it was just over and over and over again. And to be honest with you, it helped me a lot more probably than it helped you. But like just building that is hard to do at the beginning. But then if you just keep going at it, it's just like with anything. It gets easier and easier and easier.
And that's the point of it. It's making sure that it gets simpler, right? So when you do this practice, this physical practice, the whole point is you need to create that mental environment. So I'm always going to go back to this example, but Steph Curry, he practices as if he has 3 people around him because that's usually what he experiences in a game, right? And he shoots with that kind of intensity and that kind of purpose behind his shot, and that kind of urgency is the word I'm looking for, where he's able to execute. And it doesn't matter if you're learning how to give a presentation even. It's the same thing. And it's something that a lot of people lack in. It's something that they kind of write off, right? So having that mentality and that ability to do that is extremely important. And the way that you're going to do this for your physical practice is very simple. We say to all of our athletes, you need to spend 7 minutes on each of the things that you visualize, doing that 3 times a week of extra practice. So that's a 21-minute session where you go out there, you'll spend 7 minutes on basic technique, 7 minutes on working the scenario to overcome the challenge, and 7 minutes to working on the outcome to overcome or experience that outcome. Point is this, though, if you can extend that to about 10 minutes each, that's a good solid 30-minute training session. If you can extend that to even, let's say, 12 minutes each, that's close to about 45 minutes at that point, or 36 minutes, If you extend that to 15, you'll get to 45, right? So the whole point, though, is that if you're able to constantly build that up and work on that and use that, it's important to get to the result that you want. So all you're going to do is take what you're visualizing and put it into the field or whatever performance environment you're in. 7 minutes, 3 times each, 21 minutes total a day. Do that 3 times a week, right? Let's go into the next part then. Film or study. So why do we do film or study? Well, if you're somebody that's getting nervous before a performance and you know the skills that you have, you know exactly what you bring to the table, but you're unsure a little bit of how to execute, film or study is key for you. I'm telling you, this is where a lot of people get this wrong, is when we say this, you want to study role models, you don't want to become them, right? So I'm not asking you to become the next great athlete and trying to become the next Sidney Crosby or Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant. There's one of those in the world, or Steve Jobs for a lot of business people. What I'm asking you to do is understand their technique and their formulas and rip those, use them.
It gives you a blueprint, right?
Absolutely.
That's all it is. It just gives you a blueprint, like just Sidney Crosby protecting the puck. That's a perfect blueprint for anybody that's lacking in that area.
Yep.
Right?
And the whole key to this, guys, is that you want to pick the one specific skill that you're unsure of and watch how they're doing it. Now you have role models. Do not watch people at the same level as you simply because it doesn't serve you to try and compare to others. You want to watch people that have already made it. Now, if you are somebody tuning in who's playing at the pro level, watch the best in the league at what they do. Plain and simple.
That guy on the next level.
Exactly, right? And it's funny because this all actually goes right back to the great Marcus Aurelius I just wrote down, right? Who, even as being the emperor of Rome, was studying. He said, I think he wrote in one of his meditations, study those who are successful. And it's the same thing. It's like study role models. Success leaves patterns. It leaves clues. It leaves everything, right? So role model studying, do it 3 times a week. We actually call this the 3x3, right? So 3 sets of visualization a week, 3 sessions of physical practice a week, 3 sessions of film watching a week, role models on these specific topics. I'm telling you, you will never be more sure in your life of what you need to do. Let's talk about the last part to this. Focus. This is the part that I think a lot of people drop the ball on. They do everything right throughout the week, and then game time comes, and their focus is all over the place, and they're trying to do 20 different things at once. I get it. I was there, but let's cut that crap out right now. How do we get rid of that? It's very simple. You need to focus on the actions that drive you results, and you need to be intentional with those actions. Let me explain what that means. Oftentimes, people go into performances focusing just on outcomes. I need to score. Well, that doesn't serve you because you're not telling yourself how. So let's cancel that myth out right now. When you focus on actions, you're giving yourself a blueprint to follow. Where a lot of people make this mistake, though, is that they'll say, I know the actions, Matt. I know I got to catch the ball. But then when they go do it, they're not intentional to catch the ball. As stupid as that sounds, I'm telling you all right now, we deal with this frequently. They know what they need to do, but they're not intentional when they do it.
They're still focused on that result as opposed to getting number one done first before you can move on to two.
So what you need to do is when you're picking these focuses, it's 1 to 2 things that are going to drive results and performance. So the way we do that is very simple. If I'm a goal scorer, if I'm a forward in soccer and I need to score, and I know that I've got to make sure that I'm sprinting to get into the box, and then when I'm shooting to pick a corner. That is a laser focus intention, and you're just going to keep doing that all game long. Get into the box, shoot to score. Get into the box, pick the corner. Get into the box, pick the corner, right? I know that sounds redundant and simple, but it's funny. If you actually did you watch the Amazon Prime Juventus?
Yep.
So there's one snippet in there, and I always go back to this with all of our athletes, of Ronaldo. And they talk to Ronaldo about this, and they're like, so how did you stay able to perform at the time when this was out? He was 36 years old, and you're able to perform at such a high level. He goes, Cristiano Ronaldo, he always talks about himself in third person. Cristiano Ronaldo always focuses on the one task in front of him, and that's all he does. And he does that, then he does it again. If the task calls for Cristiano Ronaldo to eat well, he eats well, and he moves on. If it calls for him to shoot, he shoots. If it calls for him to sprint, he sprints. That ability to break things down one by one, just constantly chop it down, that is crucial and key for anybody trying to build a laser focus.
And what do we always hear? This person slows the game down. It looks like this person's moving so fast, but they're in their own, they're playing so slow.
Yep.
Because they know what they need to do. And it's not overthinking everything that you're doing. Like, it becomes automatic.
Yes.
But it's understanding, okay, here's step 1, here's step 2, here's step 3. I cannot get to 3 without doing 1 and 2 first.
And this is a good one to talk on too, because I feel like there's so many people that talk about overthinking. Listen, you're never going to go into performances not thinking. And if you are, you're letting your mind run wild. You're actually cutting off your potential. Like, where focus goes, energy flows. That's one of the oldest sayings in the book when it comes to high performance. And it's like, if you're not taking control of your focus, what are you doing?
Well, personally, I think the overthinking aspect comes from like understanding the role in a team like system, for example. So where guys go, where you're supposed to be, on the blue line, down low, wherever the case may be. I think that's where most of each of those individual players, they have the skill. Mm-hmm. But because they're thinking of where they need to be positionally, whether it be on the ice, on the field, wherever it is, it takes away from that skill. You can't be automatic.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
So I think it's like just a different focus on where, not necessarily your skill there, it's more of like the team stuff. But I have a feeling that's the main connection. It's not that all those players don't have skill. You're all at that level. You all have,
everyone has skill.
At least that base level of skill.
Everybody.
Right? It's not like when you're taking a pass, you're overthinking, oh, how should I receive this or anything. It's kind of automatic. If not, you're reacting to it. But the overthinking most of the time, for me personally, and what I've experienced with some players, it's because they don't know where they're supposed to be.
Correct.
Right?
That's the biggest one. And that's where I think a lot of people don't
just make the connection. Just make the right connection. Focus on the right thing.
Yes. And that's exactly it, right? It's like, cut off all other options. Stop giving yourself, any kind of an excuse to focus on something else. Choose your focus. Choose where your energy goes. So now that you've got all these down, and if you're sitting there saying, well, Matt, I'm still feeling a little bit nervous going into performance, that's normal. Here are the 3 things you need to do. Number 1, you need to remind yourself of all this work you did. Yes, going to a performance before it, you're going to want to review all this stuff. This is why we highly suggest journaling in some way or keeping notes. Our athletes use the Molliteum Pocket Coach. It is literally an app that they can just go into, and all their work is there and everything's programmed. They don't have to worry about that. But again, you need some kind of a form of tracking all your work. If you don't have a form of tracking your work, I'm telling you right now, it's not going to be beneficial to you. You need to see the work that you're doing. You need to be able to go back to it. It builds confidence. So first thing you're going to do is review all the work that you did. The second thing that you're going to do is use a form of box breathing. We love box breathing before performances. It is one of the proven research-backed ways to help you reduce performance anxieties if it comes down to it. But this is seen, guys, I'm telling you, please understand, the cherry on top. Stop slapping Band-Aids on all of this. Take care of the work part first. If you're getting a little bit of excitement before a game, you can use this strategy, but it shouldn't be your first thing that you go to. Like I was talking to a player that we just ended up working with, and he was saying the sports psychologist that he worked with, this isn't a chop. It's the reality of how things get treated sometimes. Goes, oh, you can't do that though. And he's like, well, what are you talking about? I can't do that. And he's like, well, you can't have those kinds of excitement, boosting feelings before a game. You got to control it. It's like, okay, great. How are you taking control of that though? This is why I'm saying, like, just doing a form of box breathing or meditation before a game, it's great because in the moment it might make you feel good for a couple minutes. But if you're truly not sure of yourself, it's going to kick your ass later on. It's going to be, I was there. I was that guy. I was the guy that did all the box breathing before, the visualizing before. I didn't pay attention to the mental reps simply because I didn't know. Going into games, I felt like crap, right? And it's like I felt good during my warm-ups, and then game time came, and I was worried about everything in this planet. So my whole point is, don't just slap this last part on, right? This is seen as the cherry on top of everything, because the last thing that you can add in once you do your box breathing, do a set of visualizing if you would like. That set of visualizing is going to help you get back into the right mindset. It's going to calm you down. It's going to make you sure going into your performances. So let's wrap this up. Number 1, stop coping with pre-performance nerves. Doesn't work for you. Shouldn't be the thing that you do. Get rid of them. Number 2, you need to get yourself into a state of peak performance. To do that, you need to build your hunger and certainty. When it comes to pre-performance nerves, though, we're going to focus on certainty. Certainty consists of 4 things. Mental reps, which we talked about, visualizing 3 times a week. Physical practice, do that 3 times a week. Study or film work, do that 3 times a week. And a laser focus that you're focused on during performances of any kind. Once you do that, if you're still feeling a little bit too much excitement before going into a game, because excitement is good, simply apply the 3 things we said. Review your work. Make sure that you are practicing a form of breath work, which is, we said, box breathing, and do a set of visualization. This is how you get rid of pre-performance nerves. You work on it just like a muscle. You don't write it off after 1 week doing it and you're not fully there. Even if you're 10% better each week, 2% better each week, 1% better each week, I'm telling you this will work. There is usually a kink in the chain whenever you're feeling these pre-performance nerves.
And the only reason why we're taking such this is more of an aggressive episode that we've ever shot.
Sure.
It's because stop fucking coping with it.
Yeah.
Like, unless you like to feel this before every single game.
Yep.
Like, just stop.
And
like, here's a way to cut it.
Sorry, but like, don't buy into the bullshit either of like, these nerves are meant to deal with. These nerves are meant to work, with them and blah, blah, blah. No, man, like, purge that shit. Like, get rid of it. I'm telling you. I can't tell you how many times people are just okay with, like, not being okay. Like, stop that. You should be chasing the best version of yourself. Like, guys, this is my last part of this whole little kind of rant episode, but we live one life. If you're an athlete, your time is cut in half because you usually have until your maximum, if you're pushing it very, very well, until about the average athlete, the oldest they push it is about 36 years old. Mm. The unicorns, like the Tom Brady's and so on, push it longer. My point is, though, your athletic career is shorter than your life in general, right? Maximize this time
and enjoy doing it.
Yes. Like, you shouldn't have to worry about game day. Like, I hate that that's the standard of being okay with coping on game day. People that just give you guys skills on how to cope in game day, I'm sorry, guys, but fire their ass and come over to Molliteum. Like, it's that simple. You shouldn't be coping with anything. You should be using it. This is to me one of the most disservices that happen in this industry is, quote, coping mechanisms.
Well, it's not even this industry.
Purge it.
It's just everything in general.
Well, majority, right? So anyways, guys, please subscribe to the Molliteum Insider. Like we said, we got so many good new things coming out. Like, share, subscribe, whatever you got to do to this podcast so that we can get it out to more people if this content is valuable to you. We are here to make sure we crush that standard for you. We are here to raise that standard for you, and we are here to make sure that you discover your true potential. We will give you every freaking skill that you need for free. Just make sure to share this, tune in, and give everybody the goods that they can have for this. So thanks so much all for tuning in for this week or watching, and we'll see you all in the next one.